Hello, my name is Mich Turner. I'm here from Little Venice Cake Company, and I'm talking about my greatest inspiration for real business and orange.
Mich Turner worked as a patisserie buyer at Harvey Nichols before setting up her own cake business, Little Venice Cake Company, in 1999. She has supplied her delicious treats to all the major 5-star London hotels and has designed cakes for the likes of Madonna, Brosnan, Sir Paul McCartney, David Beckham and Gordon Ramsay. We caught up with the Queen of Couture Cakes in London. Hi Mich, thank you for joining us today.
It's my pleasure.
Now you were working as a patisserie buyer at Harvey Nichols before leaving and setting up your own company in 1999. What made you decide to do that?
Okay, it's a very good question, and it's one I get asked a lot. You know, what was the transition between being a buyer at Harvey Nichols to suddenly running my own business? But actually starting my business probably began about 10, 15 years before I even joined Harvey Nichols. I was studying my A-levels at university, studying my A-levels at school, knowing that I was going on to university to study food science and nutrition. So I was studying biology, chemistry and home economics. And my home economics lecturer asked me if I would decorate her wedding cake, which, although I'd entered and won a cookery competition, I'd never done anything as specialised as cake decorating. But being a very sort of confident 17-year-old, world's my oyster and keen to try everything, I was very, very keen to have a go and went on a course to learn the basics, which I really enjoyed, and decorated her wedding cake. And then it kind of all went on hold while I was at university, but started to build it up again in my spare time once I'd graduated. And it was on the strength of a letter to Harvey Nichols that they took me on as a supplier initially. And I was working with them with a number of 5-star hotels, building the business up to the point where then Harvey Nichols said, well, would you come and work for us? And as much as I'd enjoyed setting up and working from home, the opportunities I thought I could learn or gain from working at Harvey Nichols would be fantastic. So I joined them in '96 and worked for them for just under 4 years as a bakery patisserie buyer, learning and understanding a lot about business in terms of how to run my own business essentially within Harvey Nichols, responsible for my own team of staff, employees, profit and loss, management, wastage, all of the issues that come with running a small business. So it was a great introduction in that respect. But the light bulb moment came when the lights went out, because it was the day of the solar eclipse in 1999 that I decided that the business had got to a stage in my spare time where, in order to service my clients to a level that they deserved and I wanted to do, I had to make the decision between whether I was going to stay at Harvey Nichols or make the leap and set up my own business. And it's something that I felt I wanted to have a go at, primarily because I was now married and looking to start a family, and thought that it would be a great way of being able to have a business, of doing something that I could run from home whilst having young children. So that was the decision, and that's what prompted me to make the decision to leave Harvey Nichols and set up Little Venice Cake Company.
Okay, so it was still a big leap for you. You were in your late 20s when you made that decision. What was the biggest challenge along the way of setting up your own business?
Well, there are lots of challenges when you set up your own business. I mean, you go from having a full-time salary, on a monthly basis, with a nice, clothing allowance as you got at Harvey Nichols and 30% off your cosmetics, to suddenly being accountable for every single penny that comes through the door. And it certainly made me appreciate the cost of living, very aware of where my money was going. But I was fortunate in that I started small. I started the business from home, so I had no overheads as such. I started working from home, building it up slowly and surely. So I've always taken the step of walking before I could run, and getting to breaking point before I was prepared to take the next step. But in certainly setting up the business, I suppose the main issues initially were having enough business to bring in a viable income that would support me.
How have you gone about attracting these celebrity clients?
It's funny how the celebrities are kind of like a honey around a honeypot, because within a year of starting the business, I was asked to design, make, bake, decorate, transport Madonna's wedding cake, which is a huge, huge accolade. And that had literally come about on the strength of having worked with the wedding planner who was looking after hers and Guy's wedding on one previous occasion. And how I had conducted myself on that occasion was enough for him to say that when he got the commission, he wanted me to organise the cake, which I did, and transported it to Skibo. And I remember arriving on the day at Skibo where we'd been diverted because of fog, and the BBC News had said I'd been stuck in Glasgow airport with Brad Pitt, and I thought, well, God, if I'd been stuck in Glasgow Airport with Brad Pitt, I'd have known about it. But got to the castle, and I remember him saying, you know, he said, I knew you were going to get here. I didn't know when or how, but I knew you would get here. So that was fantastic. And but as they say, one is one, but two is three. And it wasn't really until we'd got Pierce Brosnan's after that, Paul McCartney's wedding, that the celebrity sort of following began to really kick in. My parents are both creative, certainly from their ancestors. My mother's a dress designer by profession, but she had her family very young. She had us all when she was very young. So never, although she'd qualified as a dress designer, never really fulfilled that ambition of going on to do dress designing. Used to make a lot of our clothes when we were younger, so I was surrounded by creativity and fashion. And my father's ancestors were the master enamelers on the canal boats. So there's certainly some element of real creativity there. From an entrepreneurial point of view, I've always had the confidence that I can achieve anything I set out to do. And I think it's certainly very much come from there.
I mean, you talk about confidence. Do you think that's one of the main characteristics of entrepreneurs? And do you think there are other particular things that make up a business owner?
Absolutely. There's a huge amount of credentials you need to have, I think, to be a successful entrepreneur. One is confidence. You have to be able to believe in yourself, believe in your product. Because when it comes to selling, you're selling yourself as much as you're selling your product. So you have to be able to either do that yourself or ensure that you employ somebody who can do that very well for you. You have to be incredibly focused, knowing what your goals are, what your vision is for your business and your product and where you want to take it. To that end, you have to be incredibly determined. But I think passionate. You really have to have the passion in the product that you're working with.
Are there any other particular entrepreneurs that you look to and that you admire?
Yeah, there are several in different fields. Certainly in the fashion world, the likes of Anya Hindmarch and Karl Lagerfeld, Coco Chanel, Yves Saint Laurent, those sort of absolute geniuses in design who've made a profession and made themselves iconic in their status. But also people who are uncompromising in their fields, the likes of Simon Cowell and Gordon Ramsay, I respect immensely.
Tough cookies. And you've now been running Little Venice Cake Company for a decade. How is it going at the moment, especially in the current climate? Are people still buying luxury cakes?
Sure. It's been a really interesting journey. The 10 years that I've been running Little Venice Cake Company now, I look back retrospectively at what we've achieved, and it is phenomenal. This year particularly has been interesting in that the first quarter was the busiest we'd ever had, and the second quarter was probably one of the quietest we've ever had. I think that certainly because weddings are a big part of our business, any weddings that had been booked in the early part of the year still went ahead, but with the recession, the number of clients who potentially would have got married in the second half or the middle of the year were holding back, hanging onto their safety net, postponing their wedding for a year to see how things ride. I would say that the average spend has not gone down, but the volume of people spending potentially has gone down. But having said that, since the autumn's kicked off, we are seeing a huge number of people really sort of coming in with last-minute, short lead orders for big birthday celebrations, anniversaries, wedding parties, and on the strength of that, or aside of that, we've also launched in 4 key directional stores in London within the last 6 weeks.
That's fantastic. So where do you expect Little Venice Cake Company to be in 5 years' time? What's your end game?
I've always been keen that Little Venice Cake Company should become a very strong brand, very premium luxury brand. And that was acknowledged earlier this year as we were announced as a Walpole brand of tomorrow, which means that I do have a number of mentors that I'm working with and a number of opportunities have opened themselves up to us to really look at taking the brand much more accessible. You know, up until fairly recently, for clients to come and be able to get a Little Venice Cake Company cake, they had to come to us direct. But now we have a licensed branded range available in Sainsbury's nationally. We're in 4 key stores in London, in Harvey Nicks, Harrods, Liberty and Fortnum's. And that looking forward, we're going to be expanding the range that we offer, the number of stores that we're in, looking to get some more independence throughout the country. And on the strength of having written 3 very successful books, with a 4th one commissioned for next year, which are translated into different languages all over the world, the idea is that the branded range of cakes will be the #1 premium range, not just nationally, but potentially internationally.
Well, it sounds like you're very busy, so thank you very much for coming in and speaking to us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.